Just remember little stories that Dad told. I don't have the memory that Roy does, but he would tell us stories all the time at dinner table. And I remember one story right now. I'll remember more later. But at the orphanage, these boys had to work very hard. They planted orchards and
Orange groves.
orange groves, yes. And he was one day chopping wood, no shoes, barefoot, and he almost chopped his foot off. He looked down and he saw bone. So he remembers what his mom, who was half Indian, taught him about this mud.
Native American.
What?
Native American, to be politically correct.
Well, I'll say Indian. Thank you. Cherokee Indian, by the way. And where was I before?
He put an axe to his foot.
Yes. So there was a moss that grew under the grape arbor in the mud. There was a moss, and he recognized that as being the moss that she talked about and showed him. So he put that on his wound and kept it on there, and it healed perfectly with almost no scar at all. And later I learned that's where penicillin was, how penicillin grew. It was in a moss, just like that. So the Indians knew all about that from way back. And now I can't remember any of the other stories from the Indian side.
I remember he had a horrible scar on his arm right about here.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to be at 18. I said, how did you ever get that? He was in Belgium in a seaman's bar, and a fight broke out. And you talk about police brutality today. Well, the Belgian police came in with swords and started stabbing everybody. And a seaman cop came at him, and he threw his arm up to block the sword thrust, and that's how he got that scar on his arm. He wants some police brutality. But
Yeah, they talk about police brutality today.
yeah.
He
But,
carried swords?
Also, I remember he was 7 when his mom died, and Uncle Floyd was 9. And that's when they went to the orphanage. And at 9 years old, Floyd had to work for this couple as a laborer on their farm.
Sure.
And Floyd and Roy, brothers, looked, later in life when we met him, they looked exactly alike. Exactly. Do you remember that? Only, shouldn't say this, but Dad was a hard worker, and Uncle Floyd was always in a rocking chair going back and forth on his porch, big farm. And every year he said, one of these days, I'm gonna plant that field over there.
Still waiting.
That was in the Zephyr Hills, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And our father also boxed professionally in his younger days.
Yeah, I remember that too. And that's how he made money to go to navigation school at night with the boxing. And he worked on Flagler's Railroad, building 7 Mile Bridge into Key West. And another story. Working on 7 Mile Bridge, I remember him saying the water was 32 feet deep. It was very swift current with lots of hammerheads and bull sharks. And the bridge from the water up was 32 feet high. And if you dropped a hammer, you had to go get it. And he was the only one who could swim out of all those guys. So guess who was elected to go get the hammer if it was dropped?
You either got the hammer back or they docked your pay for it. And they would work from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., 6 days a week for $1.75 a day. Which would buy something in those days. He was in Daytona when he was 14, and they were auctioning off beachfront lots. And they were all going for the same price, $1.75 a lot. See, there wasn't even a railroad in the town yet. He was working on the bridges to get it down there.
Well, that's pretty. That was a week's pay. To
No,
have
day's
a day's pay. You could buy a lot for a day's pay.
Right.
But I think I remember him saying you could also buy a hammer for the same price and a pair of overalls for
I know
$1.75.
you could get a pair of overalls for $1.75. I remember him saying that.
And a hammer for $1.75.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And they all had to buy their own hammer and overalls.
Wow, those are great stories.
He was a good dad.
He was.
So, Aunt Eileen, you have any fun stories?
Yeah, I was gone by that time they started telling stories.
He told us stories every single night at dinner time.
I've heard the stories.
You had better places to be.
No, she was there.
I was there.
She was there.
That's pretty funny.
Remember that when he was in World War One as a first mate on Lights Lines merchant marine ships, and in the Second World War he was a captain, merchant marines sailing the ammunition across. And I forget when was Torpedo Run, World War One or two? History expert.
I never heard of torpedo run in either war. I'm not saying that there wasn't one.
Well, there was.
But they had to be very careful, that's all.
Lights out, zigzag all the way across the Atlantic.
Mhm.
All the way across.
No. Okay.